This is the review of the 2015 Ford Focus SE with the EcoBoost engine and the 6-speed manual transmission. This car is in sedan version and it looks really good. 17-inch mags are beautiful. The swooping forward design is very apparent and it indicates a sporty nature of the sedan. That's really what makes a sports sedan. And the front end, the right size, I feel this car looks, I'll say it, as good as the Mazda 3 sedan. I mean, it really looks that good. I mean, look at how those headlights go back, and the front end looks Aston Martin-y in a non-tacky way. Ford obviously worked their magic into this, and it's subtle. It doesn't look that different from the older version. It's very subtle. So yeah, looks good compared to this car. It looks very, very good, and from every angle, you just can't fault it. I mean, it looks really pricey, and the rear trunk is okay. It's not the end of the world. It's not finished as well as the Germans, but it's pretty good. Seats fold down. The opening is somewhat large. Nice road insulation there on the back trunk. Interior rear seat, probably the car's weakest point. Actually, it's probably the weakest in the category. Look, the front seat is for me, and the one on the right is for Ross, who has those giant legs. You can't fit somebody back there. So definitely huge packaging issue with this Ford Focus SE. It's got to be its biggest weakness, and it's weird that Ford did not address this. Now, you do get a lot of exterior styling, and I usually accept compromise on exterior styling, but the car is pretty darn high. I don't know, I think they screwed that one up. On the interior, they retouched all the interior for 2015. I don't know, there's a lot of buttons here, but it seems to be less than before, and everything seemed intuitive, so I guess they improved that a lot. The little screen is cheap. The plastics, some of the plastics were cheapy. This is a $23,000 car. I mean, it's got to be a little bit more top-notch than that. The nice wraparound feel from the interior. Nice grips at the 10 and 2. The interior is a slick. It's maybe a bit flashy, so depends on your taste. Here we see the roof liner, pretty good quality. I always take a shot of the roof liner because I find that's where people cheap out. That's where you talk into the for your Bluetooth conversations. Heated steering wheel, which is pretty good for winter, and heated seats. So I know girls like the heated seats a lot, and they would like the heated steering wheel. So I think that's a touch that a lot of people will like. Awkwardly, not awkwardly, but this car has start-stop. And also, if you mess up your throttle engagement, the car will start up again. You don't have to start it up. So I thought that was pretty cool. So if you drop the clutch and you screw up, not bad. This 1 liter is loud. It makes a cool little grunty noise in first gear. It doesn't eat a lot of gas, especially in the city when you're booting it, and it has very, very low power. So here I am driving the Ford Focus SE with the 1 liter turbo. It's a small engine, the 1 liter turbo, and it certainly feels like a small engine. I want to talk to you guys about the Ford Focus before, just a 1-minute intro, and I want you to pin that in the back of your brain while we're testing this car. I owned the Focus in 2003. I bought the ZTS. I would have never bought it unless my brother-in-law forced me to drive one, and I was immediately taken away with the ride of that car. At the time, I was looking between the Honda Civic and the Mazda Protege 5. That was like the two hot cars, and they sold the Focus for a couple of thousand less, and I thought it drove just as well, if not better. And the reason, it was kind of like a first for an American compact car with a suspension that was sporty and European, and that's what made the Focus what stood it apart from its other American rivals. It's good to disclose that, so that way you see at least my bias right away. I really like this car. I think this car is really good. There's a lot of cheap plastics inside. It's sort of like the cheap model. This car awkwardly only comes manual, so that kind of like goes against the fuel economy philosophy. The shifter's good. The clutch is good. It's a little bit hard to engage at the beginning because the turbo, like, I don't know, it's weird. It's choppy to engage. But the suspension is perfect. And I in my reviews, I go on and on about the suspension because I guess I like driving, right? I like cars. And this one here is the perfect blend between comfort and sportiness. It doesn't crash hard over bumps, but it never rolls too much in corners. It rolls enough. A bit of rolling in corners is okay, because we're not on a racetrack, right? We're driving on regular streets. And this one is just right. I mean, when you're taking curves with this car, I took a curve pretty hard before, and actually one or two curves pretty hard before, and it was it's just perfect. That Ford gets that right. They get that so right. Cockpit feel is undeniable in this car. Shifter has a nice feel to it. The steering wheel has nice fatty grips at the 10 and 2. Everything about the driving experience is very positive in this car. I would say that I like the interior and exterior styling a lot. I mean, I don't know why Ford doesn't make a sports sedan out of this, like a sedan ST, of course, without those horrible ST seats. I think they would sell like hotcakes. So what else is there to say about this car? Well, they've cleared up 2015. For 2015, they cleared up the center console. There's much less buttons. I don't know. Maybe there aren't less buttons. It feels like there's less buttons, and it seems to make a lot more sense. The gauges now have nice fonts. Before, like, Ford had really ugly fonts for their gauges. I don't know why they did that. Looks a lot better. The car feels incredibly tight. Now, granted, this car only has 2,000 kilometers, which is about 1,300 miles for my American customers. But really, it feels tight. No rattles, no nothing. The bass stereo, I tested it before. It's very loud, plays very well. No rattles from there either. Ford is making their cars a little bit tighter. So, yeah, as we're getting onto the highway here, I'm flooring it. I'm in 6th gear. I dumped to 4th. I'm flooring it again. It seems to me I'm lacking a little bit of power. As I approach 100 kilometers an hour, the road noise, the wind noise is very muted. We were on the highway before, Ross and I, talking about this car, and it was a pleasant experience. We weren't talking over the wind. We weren't talking over the road noise. It was a great drive, a very great drive, a sophisticated drive. That's another thing. That's another thing about the Fords, that they're more and more sophisticated. Ford is a brand in general that I'm very bullish on. I mean, they have a very solid lineup. If you look, they're not weak anywhere. So how does it fare amongst its competitors? Well, its competitors are obvious. They range from the Honda Civic to the Volkswagen Golf, right? And I would say this is from a suspension point of view, it's like a Golf, except it handles better. The car's exterior design, I think, is great in sedan or hatchback, but I think the hatchback is where it's really like the best. Interior-wise, Ross was making a point that he felt maybe the dash protruded too much into the cabin, sort of like the Honda Civic does that too. If you look, it has like a long flowing dash. I have to agree with him. I would like perhaps a little bit more room in front on that level. It seems to me that they're cutting off leg space, and just the feeling of openness and airiness is just it subtracts from that, the long dash. Ford has these cute safety features on their exterior windows. They've had that for a while now. They have a concave mirror, so you can check out your blind spot even better. It's very useful. When you start using that, it's kind of like, it's very handy. The haptic quality of these Ford Focuses is a bit of a mixed bag. Some things are very good, like these dials here. Before I was testing, they're very solid. The volume controls are okay. Everything's okay. However, the sound, the chimes for example, when you're turning, it's the same thing that we've had for the last, as long as I can remember. Ross remembers years and years and decades ago was that sound. The visibility is pretty darn good, I find. Nice big front window. I like a nice big front window in these compact cars because you need to see out. They're utilitarian vehicles. And you get good visibility despite pretty good styling. So the styling of Ford only makes you compromise the rear seat. There are no weaknesses on this car, really, except perhaps for the back seat, which is slightly cramped. And Ford does have a packaging issue with their smaller cars. They're not packaged as well as their competitors. The Fiesta, worst back seat in category. This car probably has the worst back seat in category, or it ties a couple of others for last place. But how many people do you really put back there? I mean, I don't know. So that's my comment about the interior packaging. It's very good for the people in front though. I mean, it's just, I would have to say from the interior room, it's the weakest one of its rivals. For the fun to drive, it's definitely very fun to drive, and it's up there with the Mazda 3, which is the leader in the category. I think in terms of all-around package, it's a must recommend, this car. I mean, this car, I have to recommend it to others because it just does everything so well. You kind of feel like you're in Europe when you're driving this car. I would say that Ford does have reliability issues. They crop up again and again. They're always mid-pack in the quality surveys. Some people's had some great experiences with their Ford reliability wise. Some people have had problems. Now they're not German intermittent electronic problems. There are things like, I don't know, a fuse gave out, or problems are resolved. It's just that they're not head of the pack, and it has to be said. I have to be honest. It's not a Honda Civic. It ain't a Toyota Corolla.